It was supposed to be a chill weekend, video games, beers, and a whole lot of nothing. Just me and my best friend, Liam, like old times. We hadn't hung out properly in months, not since I started my new job and he started dating this girl, who somehow took up all his free time. So when he texted me on a random Thursday saying his parents were out of town and I should crash for the weekend, I said yes before he could even finish typing. What he didn't mention until I showed up with my overnight bag was that his older brother Aiden was also staying at the house for the weekend. That complicated things. Aiden was a few years older than us, already done with college, and the kind of guy who looked like he was born with a gym membership in one hand and a smirk in the other. We didn't talk much growing up. He always had that too cool vibe, the kind that made me feel like a 12-year-old, even when I was 19. He also happened to be the first guy the first ever had a crush on. Not that I'd ever told anyone that, least of all Liam. So when Aiden opened the door, instead of Liam, standing there in a loose t-shirt and gym shorts that hung dangerously low on his hips, I just kinda stood there, stunned. "Hey," he said, leaning against the door frame like it was the cover of a fitness magazine. "You're early." Yeah, traffic was better than I thought. Aiden just nodded and stepped aside. "Liam's in the shower. Come in." The house smelled the same as always, lemon cleaning spray and whatever cologne their dad used. I dropped my bag by the couch and tried to act like I hadn't just had a minor heart attack seeing Aiden for the first time in over a year. "You want something to drink?" he asked, already walking toward the kitchen. "Water's good." He came back with 2 bottles, tossing one to me like we were on the same sports team. I caught it, barely, and mumbled a thanks. And that's when I realized something weird. He was watching me, not in a casual, what's up way, but like he was curious. Like I was a puzzle he hadn't figured out yet. "So, you and Liam still tight?" he asked, cracking open his bottle and taking a long sip. "Yeah. I mean, we don't hang as much as we used to, but we're good." He nodded, then gave me this look. Soft, but sharp around the edges. "You look different," he said. I blinked. In a good way?" He smirked. "Relax. I meant grown up different." "Oh, thanks, I guess." Before I could overthink that any further, Liam finally came downstairs, towel drying his hair and yelling something about Mario Kart. The night went how it always did. We played until our thumbs hurt, ate too much pizza, and stayed up too late. But Aiden kept drifting in and out, hovering just enough to make me aware of him. The way his shoulder brushed mine when he reached for a slice. The way he sat a little too close on the couch, even when there was plenty of space. It was probably nothing. I was probably imagining it. But that night, after Liam crashed early and the house got quiet, I couldn't sleep. I ended up wandering downstairs for water, only to find Aiden already there, leaning against the kitchen counter with a glass in his hand. "Can't sleep either?" he asked, his voice low. I shook my head, stepping into the cool tile of the kitchen. "Too many energy drinks," I said. He smirked and handed me the glass he was holding. "Here, cold chamomile. Works every time." I took it, our fingers brushing. He didn't move. "Thanks," I said, my voice softer now. Aiden just looked at me. Really looked. And then, without saying another word, he turned and walked toward the back of the house. "Come on," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "Let's talk." I followed him. I shouldn't have. But I did. Aiden led me into what used to be their dad's office, now turned into some kind of guest lounge, with a pull-out couch, a low lamp glowing in the corner, and an old TV mounted on the wall. He sat down, motioned for me to do the same. I hesitated, heart pounding for no good reason, then sat down next to him. Close, but not too close. "You're quiet?" he said after a beat. I shrugged. "Just tired. And this feels, I don't know, weird." "Weird?" he repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, you and me talking like this." He chuckled. A soft sound that did weird things to my stomach. "We've known each other since you were like, what, 12? 11, I corrected. "You used to dunk Liam's head in the pool every summer." He laughed at that, leaning back on the couch. "Yeah, he was easy to mess with. You were different, though." "How so?" He glanced at me. You always kept to yourself. Watched everything, like you were collecting data on all of us. I didn't say anything. Because he wasn't wrong. Aiden tilted his head, still watching me. You're not what I expected, you know. What did you expect? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Something more like Liam. Loud, messy, always saying the first dumb thing that comes to mind. But you've got this calm thing going on. Calm, I echoed. That's a first. Not a bad thing, he said. It's kinda hot, actually. I froze. The words landed like a brick in my chest, and I had no idea what to do with them. Are you serious? I asked, my voice almost a whisper. He didn't answer right away, just stared at me for a long, silent second. Then he nodded. Yeah, I am. My throat went dry. But you're straight? He said, cutting me off. I thought so. Maybe still am. I don't know. I just know I've been thinking about you all day. And not in a, hey buddy kind of way. I couldn't breathe. I should have said something. Laughed it off, changed the subject, excused myself, and gone back upstairs like a normal person. But I didn't, because I'd been thinking about him too. You know Liam would freak out if he ever found out, I said finally. Aiden grinned, slow and lazy. Then maybe we just don't let him find out. That grin made my stomach twist. He leaned in a little, and even though I should have backed away, I didn't. Our faces were inches apart, his breath warm, his expression unreadable. Then, right before he crossed the line, he stopped. Tell me to back off, he said, and I will. The room was silent. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The next second, his lips were on mine. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was careful. Curious, like he was trying to understand something without saying it out loud. My hand moved on instinct, gripping his knee, and the way his breath caught made my pulse spike. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Damn, he muttered. That was... Yeah, I breathed. Aiden sat back, running a hand through his hair. You should probably go upstairs before we do something stupid. I nodded, but I didn't move. He glanced at me again. Or you could stay. My heart skipped. You sure? He smiled. No. But I want you to. So I stayed. I don't know how long we lay there. Just two idiots tangled together under a threadbare blanket, the glow of the TV painting shadows on the wall. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. But the part that really messed me up, it didn't feel like a one-time thing. It felt like a beginning. I woke up before him. The room was still dim, only the faintest light creeping through the blinds. Aiden was next to me, one arm thrown casually over his eyes like he was hiding from the morning. His chest rose and fell in that slow, peaceful rhythm that only comes from deep sleep. I should have felt guilty. I mean, this was my best friend's older brother. I had no business being in this room, in this bed, under this blanket, but I didn't feel guilt. What I felt was panic, confusion, and, maybe worse, wanting to stay. Quietly, I slid out from under the blanket, careful not to wake him. My shirt was wrinkled, my socks gone, and I grabbed my phone from the floor as silently as possible. When I reached the door, I paused, hand on the knob, and looked back. He was still asleep, lips slightly parted, one leg kicked halfway off the bed. I stepped out and shut the door behind me. The hallway was too bright, the light too harsh after the low warmth of the night. I tiptoed back to Liam's room, hoping he was still out cold. The last thing I needed was an interrogation. When I cracked open his door, he was curled under a blanket, snoring softly, headphones still plugged in from whatever he'd been watching the night before. I slid back into the guest bed, fully clothed, heart still thudding. My mind was a carousel of questions. What the hell had I just done? What was I supposed to say to Aiden now? Did he even want to talk about it? I laid there for over an hour, staring at the ceiling, until Liam finally stirred. Yo, he mumbled, his voice groggy. You wake up early or something? I forced a casual shrug. Yeah, couldn't really sleep. He stretched and rubbed his eyes. Too much pizza. Yeah, that's probably it. We went through the motions that morning. Cereal, bad coffee, a lazy scroll through streaming apps, but my brain wasn't in it. Every sound from the hallway made my skin prickle. Every time Liam looked at me, I wondered if he knew, if I was acting different, if I looked guilty. Aiden didn't come down until almost noon. When he did, he was freshly showered, hair damp, wearing jeans and a hoodie like nothing happened. He gave me a look. A quick one. Neutral. Like we were just two people sharing a house for the weekend. "Morning," he said to both of us, grabbing a mug and pouring himself some coffee. Liam didn't notice a thing. He was too busy arguing with me over what to watch next. "Dude, I'm not watching another car show," I said, trying to focus on anything that didn't involve the man currently standing 5 feet away from me. "It's not just cars, bro," Liam said. "It's art, the rebuilds, the paint jobs. Come on." I laughed. Barely. But my eyes kept drifting toward Aiden. And then it happened. He caught me looking. And he didn't look away. He held my gaze, just for a second, just long enough to tell me that he hadn't forgotten. Later that afternoon, while Liam was outside taking a call from his girlfriend, I stepped into the kitchen to refill my water bottle. Aiden was already there, leaning against the counter. He didn't look up right away. "You good?" he asked, eyes still on his phone. "Yeah," I said. "You?" He nodded. "Just tired." We stood in silence, the air between us thick with everything we weren't saying. Finally, I cleared my throat. "About last night." Aiden looked up, setting his phone down. "Yeah? What was that?" He didn't answer immediately, just studied me with those same calm, unreadable eyes. "I don't know," he said, but I didn't hate it. That made my heart stutter. "But?" I asked. "But Liam's my brother," he said, "and you're his best friend. So this, whatever it is, has to stay between us." I nodded slowly. "Okay. Unless you don't want that," he added, voice a little lower now. I didn't know what to say, because I wasn't sure what I wanted, but I knew I didn't want it to be over. The rest of the weekend passed like we were all in some kind of unspoken agreement to pretend everything was normal. Liam had no clue. He was too busy complaining about the Dodgers, grilling frozen burgers like he was on Top Chef, and showing me clips of his girlfriend doing aerial yoga. Meanwhile, every time I was in a room with Aiden, the silence between us felt like its own language. Nothing else happened. No more kisses, no lingering touches. But the tension? It was thick enough to slice with a butter knife. By Sunday evening, my head was spinning. My duffel bag sat packed by the door while Liam walked me out, chatting about maybe doing another weekend soon. Maybe next month, maybe a beach trip this time. I nodded along, my eyes drifting to the kitchen, where Aiden stood against the counter, arms crossed. He didn't say goodbye, not out loud, but when Liam gave me a quick slap on the back and went inside to grab something he forgot, Aiden finally moved. He stepped out of the kitchen just enough to catch me before I opened the door. "You leaving already?" he asked. I turned, heart thudding. "Yeah, work in the morning." He nodded once. "Right." For a second, we just stood there, the air charged, both of us holding back whatever we wanted to say. Then he stepped closer. Not all the way, but just enough that I could feel the edge of his body heat. "I meant what I said," he said. I didn't hate it. I gave a weak smile. "You said that already." "Yeah, well." He scratched the back of his neck, something oddly shy in his posture. "I just didn't want you leaving thinking it was some drunk mistake or, whatever." "It didn't feel like a mistake," I said quietly. His eyes locked with mine. "Then, maybe next time," he said. "You don't sneak out so fast." That did something to me. Broke through the tight knot in my chest that had been sitting there since I left his room. "Maybe next time," I said. "You don't let me." He grinned, the corner of his mouth curling into that confident, maddening smirk I remembered from years ago. But this time, it didn't feel like he was laughing at me. It felt like he was inviting me in. Then Liam came crashing back out the door, keys in hand, totally unaware. "Dude, almost forgot I let you borrow my charger. You still got it?" I blinked, startled back to reality. "Yeah, it's in the bag." He grabbed it, tossed it into his pocket, and waved as I backed out of the driveway. Just before I turned the corner, I glanced at the front porch. Aiden was still standing there, watching me go. That week was torture. Work felt like background noise. I kept checking my phone, even though I had no reason to expect anything. Aiden and I hadn't exchanged numbers. We weren't talking. Hell, we weren't anything. Not officially. But I couldn't stop replaying that night. The kiss. His voice. The way he looked at me like he knew. 3 days passed. Then, Wednesday night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Next time starts Friday. You in?" My heart skipped. "That depends," I replied. "Who's asking?" The reply came fast. "The guy who still hasn't stopped thinking about you." I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "I'm in." Friday came faster than I expected. I spent most of the afternoon checking the mirror like an idiot, changing shirts twice before settling on something casual, something that said, "I didn't overthink this," even though I definitely had. When I pulled up to their house, the lights were on, but everything was quiet. I texted Aiden when I was outside. "Here." The door opened almost immediately. Aiden stood there, barefoot in joggers and a plain white tee, hair slightly tousled like he'd just run a hand through it a minute ago. His eyes flicked over me with something between amusement and heat. "Didn't think you'd actually show," he said. "I almost didn't," I admitted. He stepped aside. "Well, now that you're here." The inside of the house looked the same. Same wood floors, same weird painting by the stairs. But everything felt different. Probably because Liam wasn't around this time. "He's not here," Aiden said, like he could read my mind. "Went to Lauren's for the weekend." "So it's just you?" I asked, trying not to sound as breathless as I felt. He gave me a slow grin. "Just me." He led me to the kitchen, where 2 glasses were already waiting. Cold, wet, with condensation. He poured us whiskey, just a little. "To not sneaking around," he said, raising his glass. I clinked mine against his, barely whispering. "Yet." He smirked but didn't argue. We sat down on the couch, talking more than we had all weekend before. About jobs, college, stuff we'd both been pretending not to care about. And then the conversation shifted. "I kept thinking about you," Aiden said suddenly. "After you left." I looked up. "Yeah?" "Yeah." He hesitated, swirling the ice in his glass. "I thought it was a one-time thing. That maybe I'd wake up and feel weird about it. But I didn't." "What did you feel?" He looked straight at me, like I wanted to do it again. And that was all it took. I set my glass down carefully, heart hammering, and before I could second-guess anything, I leaned in and kissed him. This time it wasn't tentative or cautious. It was deep and sure. His hands were on my jaw, pulling me closer, like he couldn't get enough. We broke apart, only when we had to breathe, our foreheads resting together, both of us slightly shaking. "You're sure about this?" I whispered. Aiden nodded, his voice rough. "I've never been more sure about anything in my life." The rest of the night was a blur. We didn't rush. Every touch felt like a question, and every response like an answer we didn't know we'd been waiting for. We moved in sync, like we'd been circling this moment for years. And now that it was here, neither of us wanted to look away. When it was over, we lay there in the soft quiet of the living room, still touching, still catching our breath. His hand was on my chest, fingers tracing slow, aimless shapes. "You know this doesn't have to mean anything," he said suddenly. I turned my head. "Do you want it to mean something?" He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Yeah, I think I do." I nodded slowly. "Me too." Outside, the street was quiet. Inside, it felt like something had shifted, not just between us, but inside me. Like I was seeing Aiden for the first time, not as Liam's older brother, not as the guy the first used to avoid, but as someone I wanted, for real. And for the first time, he wanted me back. The next morning hit different. Not in a bad way, just real. There was no ambient music, no perfect lighting. Just the dull morning light slipping through the blinds and the quiet hum of Aiden's breathing beside me. We'd crashed in his bed sometime after 2 a.m., too tangled up in each other to think about moving. I woke up first, again. My face was tucked into the space between his shoulder and neck, and I could feel the steady rise and fall of his chest. Warm, solid, familiar somehow, and terrifying. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could and padded to the kitchen. I needed coffee, or oxygen, or both. Something to help me sort out what the hell had happened, and what it meant going forward. Because the thing is, it hadn't just been about intimacy. It wasn't wild or messy or fueled by whiskey. It was careful, intentional. The way he looked at me when I touched him, the way he kept whispering my name like he'd just discovered something new. None of it felt casual. I was pouring coffee when I heard the bedroom door creak open. I turned, and there he was, shirtless, sleepy-eyed, scratching the back of his neck like someone still caught in a dream. "Hey," he mumbled. "Morning," I said, sliding a mug across the counter toward him. He took it, sipped it, then leaned on the counter like he'd done it 100 times. "So," he said after a moment. "Do we talk about it?" I blinked. "About what?" He gave me a look. "You know what?" I swallowed hard. "You tell me. What is this, Aiden?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me over the rim of his mug, his expression unreadable. "I think," he said slowly, "it's something. I don't know what yet, but it's not nothing." That made my chest ache in a way I hadn't expected. I nodded. "Yeah, same." A beat passed. He looked relieved. "But," I added, "what about Liam?" That brought the tension back into the room like a dropped weight. He sighed, setting his mug down. "Yeah, that's the tricky part." "We can't tell him," I said. "Not now. He'd flip." "Agreed," Aiden said. "Let's just keep this between us, at least for a while." That stung more than I wanted to admit. But I got it. I really did. "Okay," I said quietly. He walked around the counter, stopping in front of me. "You good with that?" I nodded, but he must have seen something in my face because he leaned in and kissed my forehead. Soft, grounding. "Just because it's a secret doesn't mean it's not real," he said. That stuck with me. The rest of the day was weirdly normal. We watched a movie, made sandwiches, argued about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It doesn't, for the record. But everything had this new undercurrent, like we were walking a tightrope between casual and serious. And I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen when the weekend ended. When we both went back to our regular lives and had to pretend like nothing happened. What were we even pretending for? That night, as we sat on the couch, legs barely touching, I looked over at him. "If this gets complicated," I said, "are you going to run?" He looked at me, eyebrows slightly raised. "No," he said, "I don't scare that easy." And in that moment, I believed him. Monday hit hard. Back in my apartment, back to emails and deadlines and the familiar buzz of city noise outside my window. It almost felt like the weekend hadn't happened. Like I'd imagined it all. Every kiss, every glance, every whispered moment. But then Aiden texted me. Thinking about that forehead kiss? Because same. I laughed out loud in the middle of my apartment, the tension I'd been carrying since I walked through the door slowly melting off my shoulders. We kept texting, almost constantly. It wasn't always flirty. Sometimes he'd send pictures of his dinner or ask about a podcast I mentioned. But every message carried that quiet hum of something more. Like we were slowly building a language only the two of us understood. Still, it was exhausting. having something that felt so real, but not being able to talk about it. Especially with Liam. He called me that Tuesday night, totally oblivious, ranting about some project that went sideways at work and how his girlfriend was driving him nuts. I listened, laughed where appropriate, even gave him advice, but the whole time, I was painfully aware of what I was hiding. It was only a matter of time. The weekend after, Aiden came to my place. No pretense, no Liam, just us. He showed up in sweats and a hoodie, a bag of Thai food in one hand, and a six-pack in the other. "You ordering takeout for two now?" I teased. "Trying to be boyfriend material," he said with a wink. My heart stopped. He froze like he hadn't meant to say it out loud. "I mean, shit," he laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't mean to drop the B word that fast." "No," I said, interrupting him. "It's okay." He looked at me. "It is?" I stepped closer. "It is." That night, something shifted. We didn't just hook up. We talked. About his past relationships, few, complicated. About mine, fewer, messier. About the future. His job, my freelance gigs, what this thing between us was becoming. And sometime around 2 a.m., tangled up on my tiny couch, he kissed my cheek and whispered, "You know, if this keeps going the way it's going, I'm gonna have to tell him." I didn't say anything right away, because I knew he meant Liam. "I know," I finally said, "but maybe we wait until we're both ready. Until we know this isn't just a phase." He looked at me, serious for once. "This doesn't feel like a phase." "No," I agreed. "It really doesn't." 3 more weeks passed. And then it happened. It was a Sunday afternoon. We were all at their house again. Me, Liam, Aiden, watching a game, arguing over wings, like nothing had changed. Except everything had. I could barely look at Aiden without thinking about the way he held me the night before. At one point, Liam went to the kitchen, and Aiden and I were left alone in the living room. "You okay?" Aiden whispered, nudging my leg with his. I nodded. "Just nervous." He smiled. "Same." And then, because life has the most twisted timing, Liam came back with beers, set them on the table, and turned to Aiden. "Hey, I meant to ask," he said. "You've been acting weird lately. Who's the guy?" My stomach dropped. Aiden blinked. "What?" "The guy you're seeing." "Don't play dumb," Liam said, grinning. "You've been smiling at your phone like a damn teenager. Is it someone I know?" I froze. Aiden looked at me, then back at Liam, and just like that, he said it. "Yeah, it is." Liam blinked. Once. Twice. Then he tilted his head like he was trying to unjumble what he just heard. "What do you mean, someone I know?" Aiden didn't flinch. He looked steady, calm, like he'd been carrying the weight long enough and was finally ready to put it down. "I mean, it's someone close to you," he said. "Someone you trust." I was still frozen on the other side of the couch, my hands clenched around a throw pillow, like it could somehow protect me from the explosion I saw coming. Liam's eyes darted between us. Slowly. Too slowly. And then they locked on me. "No." His voice wasn't angry, just stunned. "No way, you're not serious." I looked at Aiden. He gave me a subtle nod, the kind that said, "I've got you, even if everything went to hell." I turned back to Liam. "I didn't mean for it to happen," I said. "But it did. And it's real." Liam stared at me, completely still. Then he laughed. But it wasn't a funny laugh. It was short, sharp, confused. "My brother? You're hooking up with my brother?" "We're not just hooking up," Aiden said, stepping in. "It's more than that." "Wow," Liam muttered, pacing now. "This is insane." "You two? Since when?" Since that weekend, I stayed over, I said. The first one. His hands went to his head, like he was trying to physically hold in all the disbelief. And you didn't think to tell me? He asked. Either of you? We wanted to, Aiden said, but it's complicated. No shit. The room was tense, heavy, and for a second, I honestly thought this was going to be it. Friendship over. Bridge burned. Back to strangers. But then something shifted in Liam's face. Some of the anger bled out, replaced by something quieter. Sadder. You're my best friend, he said to me. And you. He turned to Aiden, shaking his head. You're my brother. I don't even know how to process this. We're not asking for a blessing, Aiden said. Just some space, some time. Liam didn't respond right away. He just looked at both of us, like he was recalibrating his whole world. Finally, he sighed and dropped onto the couch. Jesus, he muttered. Out of all the guys in the world. Then, miraculously, he cracked a half smile. You know what's weird? What? I asked, barely breathing. I kind of get it. My eyes widened. You do? He shrugged. You've always had a thing for disaster men. Aiden's just the first one who showers. Aiden groaned. Wow. Thanks. Liam gave him a look. Don't make me regret not punching you. Aiden grinned. No promises. That night ended strangely normal. There was no full-on heart-to-heart. No group hug. But something unspoken passed between the three of us. Acknowledgement, maybe. A kind of truce. And a few days later, Liam texted me. Still think it's weird, but I want you to be happy. Just don't make me walk in on anything. Ever. I stared at the screen for a long time, smiling like an idiot. Because somehow, against all odds, it worked out. Aiden and I didn't rush. We didn't post selfies or change relationship statuses. We kept it quiet, but not secret. And months later, on a lazy Sunday morning in his bed, with the curtains drawn and his fingers tracing shapes on my skin, he whispered, "Still don't scare that easy. Neither did I.